Ah, ah. Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome, everyone. I'm Hyunbin Park, a doctoral student representative of Graduate School of Science and Technology Policy at KAIST, and I'm really happy to have you here, the Graduate School Information Session. And thank you for coming and showing your interest in our department. I hope this information session is helpful for you to design your future and also make a connection to a broader world. This session goes with a general introduction of STP, and each professor or students will introduce their research group, and several international students will share their lively experience in STP and also Daejeon as well. You might be interested in the living in Daejeon, not Seoul. And um, and also the students will share their uh, experience and events in our department. And then we have a Q&A session. Feel free to have raise your uh, ask any questions you have to our department and this information session. Then now I will hand over my mic to the head of our department, Professor Moon Choi. Please welcome her and give a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Hanbin. Thank you so much. And welcome to the STP Graduate School Information Session for International Students. And I'm the head of the department too. And okay. Okay, so I would like to introduce the mission and vision of our graduate school. So our faculty members get together and then write this mission statement too. So STP creates science and technology policy knowledge to create a diverse, democratic, and just society. So that's where we are going. And also from local to global toward action and insights, our learning is continuous. So our graduate school is sort of the community. So we learn each other and not just students, also faculty members, the learn from students. Also, our vision is we are living in the age of profound scientific and technological disruption, and we aspire to humanize science, technology, and innovation with a critical understanding of evidence from numbers and narratives. So our research group have very diverse backgrounds. So some of us are using social statistics and big data, and also we use the ethnography work and historical perspective. So we have very diverse methodology, in our graduate school. Also, our vision is to shape the deep future of the planet. And about the globalization, so recently there's an award, at KAIST, and only two departments out of the entire departments got this award, and we are one of them. So we really value diversity. So diversity is our value and also strategy. So the international scholars in our graduate school is really strong contributors to the growth of our community. So they are the leaders of our the research and activities and education, and also we aim to be a global hub in the field of science and technology policy. And I guess some of you might be curious about what the socio-demographic would be like in STP community. And about the faculty, we have 10 faculty members, and including the one affiliate faculty member, and 2 out of 10 are international faculty members. And also about the student, currently we have more than 40 students, and then about 7 out of 41 students are international students. But we tried to recruit to really, excellent international students, and that's our goal. That's why we are here. and introducing ourselves to international community in South Korea. So we tried to increase the number and proportion of international researchers in our community. We aim to make it 30%, maybe in the future, someday, 50%. We hope so. And these are the word cloud of our research focus, and the Munier made this wonderful cloud of words, what we are studying. So you can see in the center, there's a policy. And also we are the very first center on Anthropocene, and also we focus on energy policy, AI, climate change, aging, and STS, and innovation, and science, technology, history. So we have covered very diverse topics and then tried to lead the field. And this would be my next slide. So I would like to introduce myself and our lab. So our lab is Aging and Technology Policy Lab. So our lab is very much about the evidence-based policy making. So we focus on new technology and the demographic changes and how those changes affect the quality of life of marginalized populations. So we focus on older people and also women, also the people of color, also people with disability, and we tried to find a more inclusive society and find the policy solutions to solve the social problems using technology. Okay, now I'm going to hand my mic to Hyunbin.
And Professor Scott knows, could you take your turn next?
Thank you, Hyunbin. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here with you. Thank you. Boy, you must be from the South in the United States. That's what people answer. When I was a kid, if you went to church and the minister said good morning and nobody answered, he'd keep asking until somebody answered. So I'm Scott Knowles. I'm from the United States, and I arrived in Korea at KAIST just over 2 years ago. And I'm a disaster researcher. I'm trained as a historian of science and technology. I'm interested in how we can reduce disaster suffering worldwide by bringing to bear the really powerful tools of social science and humanities research to understand the social context within which disasters occur. There's a lot that we can be doing with technology and science, and there's also a lot we can be doing with museums and with solidarity and justice-focused activity and wise public policy, and those are the areas that we work in. I have 4 students who are working directly with me in this low disaster lab: Hyunbin Park, whom you've met, and Hyuna Kyum, who's also here, and not here today, Sulgi Lee, and Joël Champelet, who's one of our international students who's originally from France. I thought I might actually, just to give you a little more detail, tell you what I've done in the last day. That might give you a sense of what this department, what KAIST STP is like. So yesterday morning, I got up, and one of the very first things I did is I had a meeting with 2 students talking about an article that we're writing together in which we're tracing the history of disaster memorials in Korea to try to understand the way that how these memorials are made and how the memorials actually work to reduce the suffering of bereaved families. The next hour, I met with my team of students who I just introduced to you, and we talked about many different topics. We met for over an hour, but one of the main things we talked about was the Disaster Hakyo, which is a summer school that we have created collaboratively as a way to bring researchers across many different disciplines and from around the world. Last year we held our first one. We hosted people from 5 different continents and in Daejeon, and we also went to Ansan to work with the Sewol Ferry families, and we went to Jeju to meet with the members of the 4-3 Jeju community there. So it was a 2-week-long, very intensive summer school, and we're preparing for our next one, which will start in June. And I invite everyone to take a look at that, disasterhakyo.com, and you can get some information there about our larger goals and how we do this work. So that was all before 11 yesterday. And I taught my STS seminar. So that's a class that all incoming master's students take. I see some of the students here are smiling. I'm glad you're smiling when I talk about the STS seminar. It's pretty known as it can be a challenging class. It's a class that immerses students in social studies of science, history of science, and technology. Yesterday we read Thomas S. Kuhn's The Structure of Scientific Revolution, which is a classic book, and I read it for the first time in 1996. So it's quite something to return to it. To read the same book in 2 different centuries is really something, I think. And then after I did that, I watered my plants. What does that have to do with KAIST? Actually, my team and I have a garden that we grow together on the campus. There's other gardeners among the students as well. I won't call them by name, but I can see one of them here. We actually started the process of starting our seedlings in our house, which we will then transplant to our garden at KAIST. So we're not always working. In fact, the only rule of the garden, I mean, I guess the rule should be that plants should grow there, but that's not even a rule. The only rule is that you can't talk about work when you're in the garden. So that's one place on campus where we don't talk about our research. This morning when I got up, I worked on a grant for some future research, which I hope will be funded to build a disaster research network spanning the United States and South Korea. We're actively building a research partnership with New York University, and this grant, I hope, if it's funded, will go some distance towards providing research opportunities for students to travel across from KAIST to NYU and back. And just on the way over here, unexpectedly, I passed the encampment of the Itaewon bereaved families. It's right across the street. I hope you'll make a visit, or if you're watching online, I hope you get a chance to visit there at some point, right across in front of the Seoul City Hall. And I had a chance actually to meet with 2 members of the bereaved family group. We actually met the director of the bereaved families to begin to initiate a conversation with him and see if there's some way that our research group in the future can provide some research support for him. So unfortunately, disasters are a structural part of our society, so we have maybe too much work to do in our lab, but we're doing it. And KAIST is a great place for students to come and do that kind of work, but disaster is a bigger topic for us. I mean, we also study climate change, we study conflict, and we also study scientific and technological innovation and invention and policy that's related to it, try to help government officials make wise policies that don't create disasters in the future. So I'll just close to say I think, maybe to make it simple, I think there's 3 important reasons that KAIST STP is a great place for international students and faculty, and it's 3 C's. One is curiosity. This is a place with an intensely curious group of students and faculty. The number of ideas that I stumble across in the hallway, overhearing, listening in, on students and faculty having conversations, it just astounds me, all of the many ideas that are brought forward. The curiosity manifests itself in research. This is a very research active community, and it's a global research active community. There's a lot of comparative research going on, which means that international students who come will be part of the second C, which is a community of scholars who are from around the world and who are actively building a larger community of researchers around the world. I mentioned just one example, the NYU partnership, which we have getting started right now. It's a student-centered community as well. Graduate school can be isolating. It's a lot of work. It's good work. It's work you want to do, but it's made a lot better if you have a community of people who care that you succeed along with them. The third C is connection. KAIST faculty are actively advising government. That means the students who work with them are part of teams that advise government. They advise and work with NGOs. Sometimes they found NGOs. And they are connected to global networks of researchers. So KAIST is one part of a larger network that every one of our faculty or students, I think, are in one way or another participating in. And I don't know many graduate programs that are structured that way, and that's why I moved from the United States here to be part of this community. So I will turn it back over to Hyunbin, and you can always reach me at my email address, which is probably pictured here, sgknowles@kaist.ac.kr, and ask me any questions at all about STP. As you can tell, I'm pretty enthusiastic. Okay, Hyunbin?
Thank you. how dynamic his life is. Yeah. And next, Professor Kyung Park will introduce his research.
Hi everyone. So maybe there. Hi. For 9 participants. Okay. My name is Kyung Park. You can just call me Kyung. We are very much interdisciplinary research group here in KAIST STP, with a particular focus on technology and governance and national development or global development. So we have 3 keywords: technology and governance and development. So, so with the wonderful students, so we have I have 2 PhD students and 4 master students, and we have affiliated PhD students as well from a computer science department and also from our own STP department. So to give a brief introduction of our research and also myself. I majored in chemical engineering for my undergraduate, and also I had the very lucky opportunity to have a double major back in almost like 20 years ago. So that was my very first double major program in my home university. So I majored in international relations as well. So after that, my graduation, I went to Kilimanjaro region in Tanzania, in East Africa region. So I spent 2.5 years, which was one of my happiest time in my life still. So I was a community volunteer, and I taught computer studies in one of the very small secondary school. And also I moved to it's called Arusha Technical College, and I taught computer sciences, computer studies actually. So and I became more interested in implications of emerging technologies, especially digital technologies, in the context of developing countries. So that's why I joined international organizations, and I worked sort of in the field of international development and sustainable development, if you like, for almost like 7 years. And then I applied a PhD program quite late. And then I studied information systems and innovation in UK, and I joined the KAIST. It's almost 5 years ago now, 4.5 years ago. So that's why we really want to focus on the kind of socio-political implications of emerging technologies. It could be socio-economic, and it could be political, it could be cultural, and it could be human development perspective implications. For example, what's the implications of ChatGPT in higher education? What's the impact of ICTs in public health, etc.? That's a kind of very key emerging issues in the context of developing country as well. And also more global perspective, as you can recently hear about techno-nationalist perspective and sort of decoupling between US and China, kind of this technology bloc. It also, very technology-driven kind of political economy setting is really important to understand the kind of very complex and dynamic interaction between science and technology and global politics. So without understanding the nature of science and technology, and also this kind of social-political implications of technology, actually cannot have a kind of inclusive and holistic picture of science and technology policies. So that's why STP, our group, is very unique, even in the context of global academic field. And I think it's this STP, KAIST STP has a very great potential to be a center of the kind of East Asian and then broadly speaking Asian academic community in terms of this field. So we investigate the issue of the role of science and technology in sustainable development and digital transformation, how we can promote more inclusive and more collaborative and more participatory digital transformation in our world. And we also investigate the issue of the global technology governance and AI and society and policy issue. So these are the broad introduction to my research and also our wonderful group with my students. And then as a SDP perspective, I think we are a very unique group. So we have a very good mixture of our faculty members and research areas. We have anthropologist and historian and myself. I mean, I still have a kind of what's that? Identity crisis to conceptualize myself as an information system. It could be development studies or public policy scholar. So, but we have STS scholars and political scientists and gerontologists. As you can see, we are very diverse and group. So that's a kind of very important advantage of as an academic group. And also KAIST a kind of place for the very aggressive international cooperation. So as Scott just mentioned, we just started the relationship and collaboration, research collaboration with NYU. So my group, this the governance and AI policy group, has been selected as one of the 8 research collaboration with the NYU. So we have just started our research collaboration, with the great support from Professor Lee and also our dean, Professor Choi. So we are very excited to have a further collaboration with the international recognized scholars in the US as well. And also, New York is the capital city, capital of the international finance sector, and also center of the international politics as well. So because it has a UN headquarters, so we try to expand our collaboration in terms of student exchange program and also collaboration with the lots of international organizations to produce a policy brief to have a bigger impact. At the same time, domestically, we also very much engaged with the policy process in Korean context. Like Dean Choi, who has been involved in the AI strategy, and Professor Scott Knowles and Professor Chan has been leading the discussion of disaster issue. Like these great scholars, we've been working together with the government officials on the digital policy, myself, and also international development cooperation. So I'm the member of the National Committee of International Development and Economic Cooperation since 2 years ago. So I think we are in the very good position in pushing our research agenda into the have a great impact on the policymaking process. Okay, so right, so let me stop here, and then I hope you to consider the apply and our program, and also we have lots of different activities. We have a colloquium and series of seminars, so you can also participate online and offline, and then you can also visit Daejeon and to discuss with us for your future career. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your personal and diverse perspective in STP. And next stage is for Professor Da-som Lee.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Da-som Lee. I'm an assistant professor here at KAIST STP. I believe I'm the newest one. I only joined 6 months ago, so I'm still learning how things are working. But before I joined, I was an assistant professor in the Netherlands at the University of Twente, where I focused on environmental development, environmental sustainability, and the role of new and emerging technologies. More specifically, my research focuses on how new and emerging technologies contribute to societal values and political values that we uphold, such as equity, sustainability, safety, privacy, and democracy. I specifically focus on energy and transportation industries. So energy being like the new technologies in the energy industry being the smart grids, smart meters, microgrids, and so on. And the transportation technologies include automated vehicles or unmanned aerial vehicles. And I believe that those technologies are really complementary with each other in building a more sustainable society. I still work a lot with my friends. I have really good friends in the Netherlands, so I still work a lot with them. I did my PhD in the US, and I have friends there, so I still work a lot with them too. So I guess my students, I have 2 master's students right now, and my students tend to work, kind of internationally collaborating with these different people in different geographical areas. I think the strength of STP is, all the professors mentioned is interdisciplinary, environment that we have. But I genuinely think the biggest strength is how warm and kind people are here. It kind of shined like the niceness of people kind of really showed when I was visiting to be interviewed. 8 months ago, I guess, 9 months ago. So, and that was, aside the fact that, this is the best, I want to say, science and technology policy program in Korea and one of the best in the world, I'm going to say, which, I think is the kindness that we show each other, the respect that we have for each other within STP, that makes this such a fantastic department. So if you have any questions, send me an email, dasom.lee@kaist.ac.kr, or you can just go to my website. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your newest perspective in our department. And next, our master student Ilana will introduce her advisor and her research. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Alana, and I'm in my final semester of the master's program here at STP. And I'll just be briefly introducing my advisor, Professor Bomsun Park. So he actually was one of the very first founders of the department and also is currently the director for the Center for Anthropocene Studies at KAIST. And his specialty is in the history of 20th century science and policy in the US and East Asia. He takes a historical comparative approach to analyze the ways in which new scientific disciplines and technological systems emerge, grow, and change in society. And he's examined policy issues at the intersection of law, ethics, and justice, especially regarding state-funded medical research and other environmental research issues. So he's co-authored a book on the history of basic science in Korea and the technology gap between Korea and the West, as well as translated books on the Anthropocene that are very foundational texts for the field. So his current work within the Anthropocene is using the Anthropocene concept as a tool to understand the geohistorical transformation of East Asian countries during the modernization process. And he studies Anthropocene spaces in the region, such as the Korean Demilitarized Zone, the DMZ, and industrial sites throughout the country. And his research topics also include the deterioration of soil quality with the increased consumption of chemical fertilizers and the circulation of construction materials across national borders within East Asian countries. He earned his bachelor's degree in chemistry and also received his PhD in the history of science. The first one was from Seoul National and the second from Johns Hopkins. And then he worked at the U.S. National Institutes of Health, NIH, as a postdoctoral fellow before joining KAIST, as I mentioned, as a founding professor in 2007. And he's also spent a visiting year at Harvard Kennedy School for the STS program as a senior visiting research fellow. And he's still affiliated with Johns Hopkins University as a visiting scholar. And his service in professional societies include the president of the Korean Association of Science and Technology Studies and the vice president of Korean History of Science Society. He's also an elected member of the Korean Academy of Science and Technology. Our research group in general, so within the lab, we have a lot of various research topics, and we all study our own individual interests relating to either history of science or some sort of technology, medicine, and social policy issues. So it's not only historical methods, but that is one of the main ones. So a lot of looking into the role of historical actors, institutions, and laws in making scientific knowledge and social order. And our lab in general is interested in examining not only political powers and cultural values embedded in technoscientific systems, but also the moral order of society shaped by new and emerging ideas. And we seek to understand the Anthropocene from this perspective of science and society in East Asia. And a lot of students also employ comparative perspectives, so cross-national, and use a lot of the conceptual tools that are developed within the field of history of science, STS, and the history of medicine. And topics of our study include expertise in lay knowledge, law and science, transparency and openness, ethics and justice, safety and risk, and transnational governance. That's all for now, and I'll talk a little bit more about my experience with STP later.
And from now on, our master student representative Munyal Yang, will introduce the rest of professors. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Munyal Yang, a master student of the STP, KAIST STP. I'm going to introduce our research labs who cannot participate on site today. Professor Soyoung Kim and her research group raised question as follow. Would you invest $1 million to build schools in poor neighborhood or to fund scientific research program? If the latter, would you fund basic science research or emerging technology development? With increasing complexity and uncertainty, contemporary R&D has taken ever larger resources, in return facing growing demands for performance and public accountability. We explore the dilemmas and tensions underlying the allocation and management of publicly funded R&D, ultimately aiming to transform the public R&D system into a social institution for public value. And next, Grant Fisher. Professor Fisher and his group investigates how cutting-edge developments in science and technology emerging alongside and shape our social values and innovation policies. It does so from the perspective of philosophy of science in practice and integrated history and philosophy of science. We focus on exploratory forms of scientific research, past and present in areas such as regulatory, toxicology, pharmacology, and biomedical science. We ask how choices are made in pursuit of innovation, how these choices may benefit or marginalize socio-economic groups, what ethical and epistemic constraints are deployed to direct research and policy, and how we might come to a better understanding of the epistemologies of innovation and science and technology policymaking. Next, Professor Cheong Jun and the Technology and Social Imagination Research Group recognize that technology is more than just the product of engineering and business decisions. It is intertwined with our personal and social lives and shapes the way we imagine our society. The impact of technology on our lives need to be examined from a moral, social, political, and cultural perspectives. Our decisions on how technology is integrated into our society can have profound effects on how we interact with each other and how our society is governed. The research group focuses on complex issues related to technology, such as the impact of tablet PCs and robots on healthcare and education. By exploring the intersection of technology and society, the group aims to encourage public decisions on how we can use technology to create a better future. Hyung-Suk Kim and his research group investigates a variety of macroeconomic issues and their corresponding policy prescriptions. In particular, they focus on how to better understand macroeconomic phenomena such as short-run business cycle fluctuations, long-term economic growth, secular stagnation, liquidity traps, so on, via an argument suitably disciplined by some sort of dynamic stochastic general equilibrium model. And last, Professor Man-Sung Im and his research group aims to promote the safe and responsible use of nuclear power technology while minimizing the risks to human health, the environment, and nuclear security proliferations. Their educational goal is to train nuclear engineers who are sensitive to society's needs, possess competent technological expertise, and have integrative problem-solving skills with a multidisciplinary perspective. The group provides a training in social and policy issues related to nuclear power. The research area includes nuclear fuel cycle and waste management, nuclear safety, nuclear non-proliferation, safeguards, and security, as well as related to policy studies. By conducting research in this area, the group strives to create a safer and more sustainable future for nuclear power technology. Thank you.
Yeah, you may notice that how diverse our department is in terms of their research and their lives. And next, our master student Taylor, yeah, will introduce student-led activities and some department-wise events.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Taylor. I'm a second-year master's student from the U.S. And like Hyunbin said, I will just briefly talk about some of the student-led aspects of our department and some details about the application as well. So as you heard from the professors before, we have a lot of different activities that I think are really nice for the fact that we all study such different areas and we get very, very like zoned in on what we study. But we have events like the colloquium and other regular talks, like the Center for Anthropocene Studies also hosts a colloquium and the A Human seminar, where you can hear different experts from various backgrounds to learn a little bit more about their work. And then as Professor Knowles mentioned earlier, I won't go into so much detail because he already discussed the disaster Hakgyo, which is the first one was last summer, and it was a 9-day event across different places in Korea, including KAIST, Ansan, and Jeju, to really discuss different aspects of fieldwork related to disaster studies. And what I think was really interesting about this project was not only did it include researchers and scientists from a bunch of different various backgrounds, but it also included activists and artists who came together to really form a very holistic view of these studies. Another student-run activity is our Behind Sciences publication. And so this goes out twice a year, and this is an opportunity for students from within STP as well as collaborators outside the department from other universities and other countries to come together and maybe talk about some of the aspects that we are very passionate about as it relates to science and technology policy that might not fit into traditional academic writing works. So for example, I wrote something with one of my friends who's doing policy work in the US on just an issue area that we're both very passionate about, speaking to the Korean and the US perspective. And then another activity that we have is our STP book club. And so this runs every semester. There's an English session as well as a Korean session. And our graduate students help run the session, but it's open to students from other areas of KAIST who maybe don't get much of the STP perspective. So this includes students who are explicitly minoring in STP, but any interested student who wants to think about their discipline from a different perspective. And then I will talk about some of our spaces. So we have a really nice communal spaces that have been popping up since I joined a year ago. We have the Brown Lobby, which is kind of the central gathering place, I would say, of the department, and the STP Lounge, which is a nice space where we can enjoy coffee and snacks. We have a new student lab. I'm very happy about it. There's a lot of sunlight, as well as the PH students have a bit more space because they have accrued many books and other belongings. And then just to briefly talk about like some of the logistics of it, there is a scholarship program. So I believe all the international students receive the KAIST scholarship kind of by default. And that's 350,000 Korean won per month for master's students and 400,000 for PhD students, as well as health insurance coverage. But in addition, I believe when you apply, you're also automatically eligible for the KAIST Global Presidential Scholarship, which is just selected across the entire KAIST student body for exceptional students. I'm not quite sure how many people receive that. But there are also a number of external scholarships that our students come through, like the GKS scholarship, as well as the Hyundai Motor Chungmongguk Global Scholarship. I'm not familiar with that one, but if you're interested in GKS or something, you might want to look through your embassy, or if you do the university track, you would look directly through KAIST. I think our students, the amount that we each earn every month comes from a variety of different sources. These might be from scholarships, these might be from research projects that you work on, either with your thesis advisor, or actually you can also work on research projects outside of your main research lab as well. You might TA, you might work for the Behind Sciences publication as an editor, and so on, and these all offer different amounts, but the maximum that we are able to earn as master's students every month is 2.1 million Korean won, and for doctoral students it's 3 million. In terms of accommodations, KAIST has, because it is in Daejeon, there's a bit more space, and so we have a lovely campus. And these are the average prices for the dormitories, but they actually slightly vary depending on the building that you opt for. And then accommodations off campus, like I said, in Daejeon, there's a bit more space. It is a bit less populated, so you can get a much nicer accommodation with more sunlight and more space at a lower cost. And having lived in both Seoul and Daejeon, I can say it is much nicer in Daejeon. All of the lectures are given in English, and all of the assignments are in English, as well as your thesis. But definitely knowing some level of Korean always is helpful, and there are many opportunities to do that within KAIST. So you can take actual courses as a master's or graduate student, and then there are additional programs offered by KAIST specific language center. And then there are some free programs, like there is a buddy program, and as well as the International House can pair you up with someone in the community who actually volunteers to do one-on-one tutoring every week. In terms of admission requirements, you can find those online on the website. There are a number of different documents you need to procure, but I would say the specific ones that you should pay attention to are your statement of purpose, which should be less than 3 pages in English, 2 letters of recommendation, and a writing sample. I personally did not write an undergraduate thesis, so I just submitted a term paper, and I think that can also be sufficient. But you should refer to the website for more information about that. And now I will turn it over to Alana to talk a little bit about her experiences prior to STP and at STP.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. So as I mentioned, my name's Alana. And I just was going to briefly introduce, like, as an example of what an STP student looks like. So during my bachelor's degree at the University of Maryland, I studied environmental science and technology. We actually had a policy track, but at the time I was quite interested more in the technical sciences side. So I concentrated in environmental health. So I was always been interested in kind of public health issues and how do people in the environment, or how do people interact with nature, and how does this impact human health and environmental health at the same time. And I also minored in geographic information systems, which, yeah, has been helpful because for papers you can help make maps, or these sort of things can be a useful tool. But I felt like something was kind of missing from my education. I was not really as aware about the societal sides, or that when you study from a very technical science perspective, you're always in the lab or you're always doing experiments, and that was really great too. but I wanted to learn a little bit more about the societal effects of these kind of environmental problems. So yeah, my interests, as I listed here, are environmental issues, climate change, and specifically urban environment and policy issues. So my thesis topic is actually about urban agriculture communities in Korea. As Professor Knowles mentioned, Grows the Garden, I also did my research through participant observation and ethnographic methods, including interviews, to see why do people search out urban agriculture community gardens in Korea? What are the policy mechanisms behind what made those gardens happen? And how do people connect through to nature through their practice in the garden? And how does that kind of differ between the participants and the leadership within the garden as well? So kind of looking at different levels in terms of environmental relations between people and food systems is my interest. And within STP, I've been a research assistant for a few different projects, including lab cultivated meat was one project that I worked on, and some different energy projects as well. I've TA'd for the history of science with Professor Park and also anthropology of food. So there's a lot of interesting undergraduate courses that you can learn from as well if you get to be a TA. And also, as Taylor mentioned, there's the magazine Behind Sciences. So I got to write a little bit about my research in the first semester through that, which is a really great opportunity to kind of build your creative writing skills as well as just within the academic area. I actually found KAIST through, I was doing the Global Korea Scholarship, the GKS program, and there's certain schools that you can apply to through that. So I applied through the embassy track, which means that I can pick 3 schools. And I was most interested in KAIST STP because of the Science and Technology Studies background, and also the fact that they were kind of doing a lot of research about, as I mentioned, I was interested in social issues and environmental science. And because of the intersection that happened there, that's what led me to put KAIST SCP as my first choice. So definitely I would look into that scholarship if you are as an alternative way of funding as well. And all the information is pretty much available online, but I'm also available for questions as well. And there's also a lot of fun things to do at KAIST, not just study. So I really like to exercise and stay active. So I'm a member of a running club as well as an ultimate frisbee club on campus. So yeah, there's a lot of different activities that you can kind of get involved in outside of studies as well. Yep, that's a little bit about me. Thank you. And now I'll hand it to Ksenia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ksenia Bernavskaya. I'm also last semester master student at KAIST STP. I'm originally from Russia, and my interests are in nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament issues. So my bachelor's degree was in Moscow in the National Research Nuclear University, MEFI, and I kind of majored in international relations, but in non-proliferation and disarmament through the non-proliferation and disarmament angle. However, I'm very much social science student rather than a technical student. So at first, when I was choosing my master's degree, I really wanted to find something again that would kind of encompass both sides, social science and something technical that is related to nuclear field that I'm very much interested in. And I thought that STP is a great place for exactly doing so when you want to major in something that is not, just social science or just, chemistry or physics or whatever you prefer. And here you can actually study something in the intersection of those fields that you're like. At KAIST, I'm doing research on nuclear justice. Particularly, I'm studying nuclear justice mechanisms based on the cases of the nuclear testing in Kazakhstan and the Marshall Islands. I'm really interested to see how those justices have been historically addressed and are addressed right now, and what are the gaps in those instruments that exist. And but I really wanted to share today not just the basic information about my studies or research, but I really wanted to share my path here because it's been a journey. So I started my master's degree when it was still COVID. So I studied online from Russia. I didn't get to go to Korea for my first year of studies, and I'm sure a lot of you maybe have been through the same situation due to COVID and pandemic. And I was really nervous about that because starting the master's degree in another country from online is very challenging. But honestly, STP has been a very wonderful community to start your journey even online, even though I was really afraid at the beginning. And even though I was studying from Moscow, I really could participate not only, in studies and research, but I could actually do some extra activities that have been talked about today, like behind sciences, for example. I had an opportunity to be a vice editor-in-chief and editor-in-chief of this amazing scientific journal. I got to tutor a book club, and that made me feel included in the community, even though I was so many miles and kilometers away from Korea. And then another stage of my studies here was academic leave, because I also know that a lot of international students want to gain a professional experience while they're studying, because once you're out of your degree, you want to find a job, but no one want to give you a job because you don't have any professional experience, and that's a truth of the life. So you really, want to get some professional experience beforehand, so you're well prepared for the full-time contract once you're graduated. So I really wanted to do some internships in between my years of master's degree, and I got an amazing offer for the internship at the United Nations, and specifically at the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization that is very closely related to my research and my interest. And STP community and STP administration was really kind to let me go for 1 year, and I got to do this amazing internship, and then I did another amazing internship in Austria, Vienna, at the international NGO, which also gave me an opportunity to do my in-depth research for my master's thesis. So I actually came for my second year of studies almost prepared with the preliminary research for my final work here. So, and STP has been really instrumental in helping me kind of navigating through all those different kinds of experiences that are, somewhat new for department as well, but, it went well. And then finally, last September, I got to come to South Korea and actually study in person. And I think after spending 2 years being on academic leave and studying online, that was also very nerve-wracking, because you never know how, the people will meet you. You've been seeing people online all the time. So it also was really, really challenging psychologically. But again, as a lot of people mentioned here, STP community is full of really kind people who are really open and flexible and, very welcoming. So I felt really welcomed at the beginning of my third semester in September, and I really got to interact a lot with people and, actually experience Korea as it is as an international student. And this experience has been really great. At the STP, apart from some student activities, I have been also TAing for the Professor Knowles class for the history of 90s, and Professor Knowles even allowed me to teach 2 lectures, which I'm really proud of. So that was an amazing experience, and if you get to do the TA, that's something you could do if you're interested in teaching in your further work. I also did research assistantship for the Korea Policy Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution that is led by my amazing advisor, Soyeon Kim, Professor Soyeon Kim. And I also right now doing research assistantship for NERIC, which is a nuclear non-proliferation think tank at KAIST. So I have been doing all these amazing experiences, and thanks to STP, it hasn't been smooth, but it has been really exciting. So I think to sum it up, if you're asking yourself whether you want to go, whether you want to come here, if you're asking yourself whether it's going to be perfect, well, no, but I bet no school is perfect. Is it going to be easy? Well, again, no graduate school is easy. So if you really want to get an easy experience, probably graduate school generally is not your choice. But I think STP is really a place for opportunities. This is the place where you can develop yourself as a researcher, as an academic person, or if you want to do some professional development, this is also a great place for that. If you want to learn some language, see some great places, KAIST STP has all of it, and it depends on you whether you seize all those opportunities. So definitely if you consider those, yeah, STP is a great place to come. So thank you, and yeah, I think my email is available online, so if you ever have questions, feel free to email me and I'll be happy to respond. Thank you.
Yes, these are our great members in our department, and definitely there are more than this. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask here, and our faculty members and our wonderful students will, can answer those questions and more detailed about, for example, application and other tasks in preparation. Yeah. Then why don't you have some informal conversation after ending this session? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for attending this event, and yeah, I hope to see you all here STP. Yeah. Thank you.